Good afternoon, class. My name is Allison Rod, and I will be talking about tip number 77 from the bar material. I will be discussing how to respond quickly to any question from the audience. Before I get started, I did want to talk about one aspect of my career that I do not discuss often. It was when I was an adjunct teacher at a university down in Florida, and I would absolutely dread the end of my presentations because I would think the students were going to ask me something that I wasn't prepared enough for, or the students were going to ask me something that I just hadn't anticipated being asked. So I think that me going over any question from the audience is really a great fit. So let's look at the first slide. Here you can see students getting on a school bus. You can see there are already students seated on the bus. You can see 3 students getting on the bus and a parental figure waving them off. Suppose an audience member asks a question that you didn't anticipate. For example, this presentation could have been about the model of the school bus and how we saw students getting on the school bus and how important it is to have a school bus that's accessible to all. You would not be focused on the number of animals, if any, that were in the picture. So when preparing a presentation or speech, yes, you should try to anticipate any question that the audience members could ask, but it's going to be impossible to anticipate every question. It could be for different reasons. Here it could be there's a brief display or a brief encounter. You might note that the picture on the previous slide was only up briefly. There are also multiple areas of focus. You could be focused on the backpack the kids had, the color of the dress the mom was wearing, the amount of kids that were already seated on the bus, and the color of the school bus itself. This question about how many animals are in the picture is determined to be an unpredictable question. So how do we buy ourselves some time when we are asked unpredictable questions from members of the audience? There are a few tips that BAR gives us. The first is to ask the audience member to repeat or rephrase the question. Instead of them asking how many animals were in the picture, they might ask you how many dogs were in the picture or how many cats were in the picture. This gives you more clarity as to what they're looking for, and it also buys you extra time to think about the answer to the question. You can also answer the question with a question. If the audience member asks how many animals were in the picture, you can ask, I'm not sure, but how many students were in the picture? This is you turning it around to accomplish your goals, and you're also answering the question with a question. You want to make sure that you rephrase your question to accomplish your goal when you respond quickly to any question from the audience, as it shows that you are competent and knowledgeable of the presentation that you are giving. You can also ask if you can follow up later. I mentioned my brief teaching position and how this was probably the technique I used the most. Ask if I could follow up later, go home, get some clarity about the question, go home and research the question, and then be able to give them a detailed and correct, accurate answer to the question they asked. And then always you can say, I don't know. Funny enough, I barely know Spanish. I've been trying to learn for years, but the one thing I do know in Spanish is yo no sé, which means I do not know. So these techniques help you respond quickly to members of the audience, but they can also help in your career goals. They can tell the management how you think about problems, how you process information, and how you act or react in high-pressure scenarios. They may not be interested at all in the number of animals that were in the video. Instead, they might want to know how you process taking the number of people, the bus, and the environment out of the picture so you can focus on the only detail that's left, which is the animal. And just as a closing, there was only one dog in the picture. Management wants to know your skills, and this shows them a great technique for how you solve a problem. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Allison Rod. Have a great day.